Good afternoon. I would like to ask all honorable members and delegates to this important meeting to take their seats. And if the ushers could settle the guests that are in the public gallery. Honorable President, Chief Fortune Charumbira, and honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament Bureau, Honorable Refilwe Ntsweni Tsipane, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces and Head of Delegation to the Pan-African Parliament, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Annelie Lotriet, Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Pubalan Govender, Honorable House Chairpersons of the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces, respectively, Honorable Mariam Dao Gabala, Chairperson of the Gender, Family, Youth, and People with Disabilities Committee of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Members of Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Members of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, the Secretary of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, in absentia, and members of the South African Parliament Secretariat, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lindiwe Khumalo. I'm the clerk of the Pan-African Parliament, and it is my honor and privilege to welcome all excellencies, honorable and distinguished delegates to the seat of the Parliament for this important pre-session prelude to the 11th G20 Parliament Speakers Summit, P20, holding within the program of the 5th Ordinary Session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament under the theme, Harnessing Parliamentary Diplomacy for the Realization of Global Solidarity, Equality, and Sustainability. I'm privileged this afternoon to present the program of proceedings for this important meeting. First, there will be an opening ceremony and welcome remarks offered by two overall co-chairs, the Pan-African Parliament's President, Honorable Chief Fortune Charumbira, and co-chair, Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Ntsweni Tsipane, and this will be followed by two thematic sessions. The first, a thematic session which will be co-chaired by Honorable Annelie Lotriet, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and Honorable Miriam Dao Gabala of the Pan-African Parliament on the role of African Parliament in advancing women's status and gender equality. This will be followed by a second session, which is a session on the Youth Caucus and young parliamentarians' expectations in South Africa's chairpersonship of the G20. And this will be presented by the House chairperson of, excuse me, I think there's been a change on that. It will be presented by Honorable Kumbaka of the South African Parliament, and his co-chair, Honorable Mariam Dao Gabala of the Pan-African Parliament. After this, there will be an open discussion and debate co-steered by the Pan-African Parliament President, Honorable Chief Fortune Charumbira, and the chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Mtsweni Tsipane, and this will bring the proceedings to a conclusion for today. It is now my pleasure and honor to call upon the President of the Pan-African Parliament to deliver his address and thereafter invite the Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP to deliver her remarks. Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk Lindwe Kumalo. May I receive and recognize a person who is already a member of this parliament, but more critically for today, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Refilwe Mtsweni Tsipane. May I recognize the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Anneli Lottridge, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Les Gavenda, House Chairperson of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, respectively, members of the Pan-African Parliament, members of the bureaucracies of Pan-African Parliament, including the Chair of Gender Committee, Honorable Gabara, Chair of Women's Caucus, Chair of Youth Caucus, our clerk, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered this afternoon the instance of the South African Parliament in promoting the road, the critical path to the ultimate gathering of heads of state in November, I think 22 to 24, for the G20 summit. And before we gathered today, there have been many questions confronting PAP, such as this G20 thing is going to happen in November. Where is the voice of the people? It should not be just a summit gathering of the civil servants or the executive arm of government, because it's about important issues of developing not only Africa but the world over. So where is the citizens' voice? Where is the parliamentary voice? Fortunately, the South African Parliament, I think, heard the whispers, and those who are organizing the P20 heard some of these silent questions. And here we are now, also on the road together with everyone else to prepare and make an input into all the processes, messages, policies, outcomes of the G20. We embark from today until November. I believe there will be a number of activities. And one of the questions, apart from citizens' voice, parliament voice, one key question is how are the women being involved? Are women being left out of this massive gathering of G20 in November? Where is the voice of the women? Okay, the parliamentarians, yes, now we are part of it. We as parliamentarians are now part of it. And there's something called P20 which will come later, Parliament 20, and the speakers of parliament. But where are the women? Are the women excluded? Again, through the Parliament of South Africa, we are here to make sure that the women voice is not forgotten. Women also make an input into this G20 gathering. Then the next question is the youth. What of the youth? We have heard from the youth, nothing about the youth without the youth themselves. So G20 definitely will be talking about youth issues. And yet the youth have not made any input. And this is one of the processes beginning this afternoon to ensure that the youth make their input. By the time we get to the heads of state in November, some of the paragraphs in the speeches by heads of state will be addressing youth issues, not from the perspective of leaders only, but from the perspective of the youth themselves. So we are gathered this afternoon to ensure that we start through the parliamentary processes, that we have the youth through parliament. There could be other organizations that may also make an input, but we as parliament, we do have our gender committees, women, youth. We have our own institutional frameworks that move with parliament and women and youth. And so we gather today under the theme, harnessing parliamentary diplomacy for the realization of global solidarity, equality, and sustainability. I don't take long. As you get my age, I'm not a youth. We want to give the youth even more time also to speak this afternoon. But I'm gender. Gender, I belong. Gender, I belong. And then not the youth. But I was once an active member of the youth. So they can also benefit sometimes from my ideas. Women, gender, and all, gender doesn't mean women. Gender means both men and women, isn't it? That's gender. Then we have women. But when you say gender, you are including people like me. That ends my speech. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. I should have performed something else. Sorry. I thought the clerk would do it. Let me properly do it. In terms of protocol. May I invite, or maybe I should say we are co-chairing. I had forgotten because I'm in my parliament. I had forgotten that, no, for this afternoon, there are two giants. One of the giants, and we are co-chairing this afternoon session. There are two chairs. And let me invite the other giant. I did salute the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces of the Republic of South Africa, Right Honorable Refilwe Mtsweni Tsipane. She is in my country we say upper house. The second house after the national, here is called National Assembly. In South Africa there are two chambers, National Assembly, and then in other countries we call it the Senate, President of the Senate. So the use of chairperson, I think, here we call as President of the National Council of Provinces, a member of Pan-African Parliament. She's not new to this chamber. Can I invite my co-chair to deliver her opening statement? I think.
Program Director, His Excellency, the President of Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Sharon Bira, the first and the second and the third Vice President of PAP, our Honorable Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa, Dr. Lotriet, our Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Governor, our House Chairperson for Committees, Honorable Frolik, our House Chairperson International Relations, Honorable Majosi, honorable members who are accompanying all of us. Of course, we do have our Chief Whip, Honorable Ntuli, who's also the member of Pan-African Parliament. We also pass our greetings to the Chairperson of Gender Committee in PAP, as well as the Chairperson of Youth Caucus, members of Pan-African Parliament, our clerk, as well as ladies and gentlemen who have joined us today. Good afternoon. Program Director, we extend warm greetings on behalf of the Parliament of South Africa as we welcome this opportunity afforded to us to brief this caucus on South Africa's chairing the G20 and hosting the P20 Speakers Summit starting from the 1st right up to the 3rd of October 2025. Of importance to this caucus and the Pan-African Parliament in general is exactly the meaning, the significance, and the benefit of this hosting for the very first time on African soil. As expected and anticipated, this has been a subject of much opinion and debate, as you have alluded to earlier on, Your Excellency, President. It's not just happening here, but also domestically and, of course, around certain quarters on the continent. It is thus the intention of our Parliament to provide the high-level debriefing of this caucus on matters related to the role of the African parliaments in advancing both youth and women status and gender equality. It is our considered view that a unique opportunity is provided to co-host the the P20 Speakers Forum as a united front, pursuing the African-centered women and youth agenda for total emancipation. To this extent, it presents an opportunity for us to reassert a paradigm shift that advances the women empowerment across Africa. So, in the interest of time, I would also want to speak to the priorities that we have set ourselves in making sure that those are issues that are going to be deliberated on during the P20 that starts on the 1st up until the 3rd. Our key priorities in that regard is that during the P20, the strategic opportunities that allows parliaments to share best practices in legislation, oversight, and public engagement shall be deliberated on. on. This includes the gender equality legislation, the mechanisms that oversee government programs, and parliamentary initiatives ensuring meaningful participation of women and youth in policy development. The P20 further provides an opportunity, notwithstanding, to advocate the increased funding for empowerment programs across Africa in climate change, in healthcare, education, trade, and building public economies. Climate change and gender integration in particular as an opportunity to address disproportionate impacts of climate change on women and girls and promotes full participation in solution building. Thus intends to elevate the women's voices and the youth voices simultaneously, and the visibility in global governance to secure resources for continental development in establishing policies and enacting laws that benefit women across the continent. In accordance, we must also contend with the fact of systemic barriers that limit full women participation in society. We shall therefore be working together as parliamentarians to continue to call for effective interventions that are aimed at empowering women and also empowering our youth in general to further participate in political sphere, not negating the fact that we also have our male counterparts, as the President has eloquently covered them in the gender equality struggle. So in the main, our focus is about women, women, and women, and youth, and youth, and youth, because in the main, those were the main cohort of our society that was disadvantaged from all forms and from all walks of life. And therefore, emphasis to us would be around that, advocating and championing the interests of our women as well as our youth. Therefore, the case of Rwanda, with the highest levels of women representativity in parliament on the continent, is quite indicative that it is possible. As women legislators and those of our colleagues in the cabinet, we should be championing and pushing across African continent for 60% or 70% representative in for women and of course for youth. The personal is political and the political is personal. Having said that, colleagues, we want once again to take this opportunity and thank you for affording us an opportunity to come and address this August House. Together with me, as I've indicated, I do have my colleagues that will then touch on issues pertaining to women that will be looking at and addressing during the P20 summit. We've got Dr. Lotriet, who's our Deputy Speaker in the NA. She will be dealing with that. And immediately after that, we are then going to request Honorable Kumbaka, who will be speaking particularly on the issues of youth. When we say youth, Honorable President, in our parliament, we mean youth in real terms, because the composition, and I'm speaking out of 10, I may not be accurate. The composition of our youth representative in parliament is more than 30% combined. And therefore, we do have the voice of youth in our parliament, and they can speak on their issues. Having said that, we want to take this opportunity once again, and thank you for affording us this opportunity. Thank you.
Is it you?
Honorable President, it's now my honor to invite Honorable Laureate to take the floor and deliver her presentation on the theme, the role of African Parliament in advancing women's status and gender equality. Thank you.
Honourable President, Honourable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honourable members of the Pan-African Parliament, and specifically the members of the Women's Caucus, esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests. It is both an honour and a profound responsibility to address this august body at such a pivotal moment in our continental history. You are all aware that South Africa has the privilege of chairing the G20 and hosting the G20 Speaker Summit, the P20, this year. Honourable members, this is not just a diplomatic milestone. It is an historic opportunity to advance the cause of African women and to put gender equality and women's empowerment firmly on the global agenda. This is Africa's moment, and we, as African parliamentarians, must seize it. Honourable members, this is a new era for women's leadership in global governance. The upcoming P20 summit in Cape Town marks the first time that this global parliamentary forum will be hosted on African soil. For us as African women, leaders, this is not just symbolic. It is an open door to influence, to speak boldly, and to ensure that our voices are no longer on the periphery of global discourse, but at the very center. The P20 provides us with key strategic opportunities. Knowledge sharing, to learn from one another and global peers on how we craft legislation, monitor gender equality outcomes, and empower women's participation in governance. Resource mobilization, to advocate for funding that supports women's empowerment in climate resilience, healthcare, education, and the economy. Climate and gender integration, to champion women-led solutions to the climate crisis, recognizing how climate change disproportionately affects African women and girls. This convergence of South Africa's G20 leadership and Africa's rising voice must be used to advance the status of African women now. Not tomorrow, honourable members, not one day, but today. Honourable members, the urgency is now. We are approaching the midpoint of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. But the truth is sobering. Despite strong policy frameworks, African women continue to be held back by systemic and structural barriers. Women hold only 26% of parliamentary seats in lower houses on the continent, and child marriage persists. Gender-based violence remains endemic. Discriminatory legal systems continue to dominate, especially for rural women under customary and religious laws. The Maputo Protocol, the Beijing Platform, and now the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls provide us with powerful instruments, but we must move from ratification to implementation. The rights of women and girls cannot exist on paper alone. They must be seen in practice, in courtrooms, in clinics, in classrooms, and in every village across Africa. I would like to point out a few strategic actions for parliaments where we turn commitment into change. Firstly, legislative reform. We need to pass comprehensive gender-responsive laws, laws that eliminate workplace discrimination, that protect pregnant workers, and that penalize sexual harassment. We must repeal laws that prohibit women from working in certain sectors or at night. We must urgently ratify the AU Convention in every national parliament and ensure that it leads to survivor-centered support systems, prevention programs, and crisis protocols. Secondly, economic empowerment. Let us legislate for equal land ownership and inheritance rights, gender quotas on corporate boards, preferential procurement for women-owned enterprises, social protection systems that acknowledge the unpaid care work women do. Thirdly, reproductive health and rights. Parliaments must guarantee universal access to maternal health care and contraception, comprehensive sexuality education, adolescent-friendly health services, legal frameworks to end child marriage and support reproductive autonomy. Fourthly, oversight and representation. Our gender committees and women's caucuses must be resourced, institutionalized, and supported by skilled staff. These bodies must monitor national gender budgets, review compliance with conventions and the Maputo Protocol, and regularly engage with civil society. We need strong data systems to track gender outcomes, disaggregated by sex, age, disability, and region to guide targeted interventions. And lastly, honourable members, strengthening regional and international cooperation. We must align with the African Union and its protocols. We must use this Pan-African Parliament and our regional parliamentary assemblies to exchange experiences, learn from one another, and harmonise our legislative responses to gender inequality. These platforms offer peer learning opportunities to overcome implementation bottlenecks and institutional gaps. In conclusion, honourable members, the time for action is now. We stand at a defining moment in Africa's journey towards gender equality. The frameworks are there, the statistics are known, the needs are urgent. What remains is action, deliberate, determined, and driven by political will. Let us remind ourselves, gender equality is not a women's issue. It's a societal imperative. It is a cornerstone of sustainable development, peace, and prosperity. Let the work we do in the Pan-African Parliament reach every province, every district, every village of our continent. Let our voices shape the outcome document of the P20 summit. Let our leadership inspire policy, funding, and global solidarity for African women and girls. Let us lead the change, because when African women rise, Africa rises. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Laureate, for that presentation. I would now like to call upon the chairperson of the Permanent Committee of Gender, Family, Youth, and People with Disability of the Pan-African Parliament to offer her remarks.
Merci, Madame la Secrétaire.
Thank you, Madam PAP Clerk, Honorable President of PAP, Honorable Heads of Delegations from the National Assembly of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Vice Speaker of the South African National Assembly, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, honorable members of the South African Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly respected. I am honored to take the floor on behalf of the Committee on Gender Equality. We are here today to brainstorm on a very fundamental situation, that is, what can African parliamentarians do in view of promoting the status of women and gender equality. Like my predecessor said, this question is neither secondary nor sector-specific. It is in the heart of our legislative actions of oversight and representation. I would like to reassure you that the Pan-African Parliament fully conscious of its role through the Committee on Equality, Gender Equity, Family, Youth and People Living with Disabilities, is fully committed in this drive and has engaged in the formulation of a model law on equality and gender equality and equity. This law is going to be reviewed in first reading tomorrow and in the Pan-African Parliament in Chamber on Tuesday. So you understand that our discussions today would further enrich this discussion and help us to merge ideas and propose more concrete ideas in view of ensuring that our Parliament, through this model law, would fully play their role of promoting social transformation. Thank you all for your presence here. Thank you for the enriching debates we're going to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the Gender and Youth Committee, for those remarks. By direction of the co-chairs, we will proceed immediately to the session on the youth, on the theme of the youth, before we break for tea. And therefore, I would like to invite to the podium Honorable Kumbaga to present. Yes, thank you.
And I was talking to the, switch off those, switch off. Discussing as co-chairs that we moved from listening to presentations on the youth, but presented by old people who are not youth. So we agreed that only those who qualify to be youth should stand here and deliver to us as youth. There is a temptation by those who are over 40 years sometimes to speak on behalf of the youth. Thank you. Let's proceed.
Thank you, co-chairs. The President of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Chief Charumbira, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Tsipane, distinguished members of the Pan-African Parliament, fellow young parliamentarians, fellow Africans. It is both an honor and a privilege to speak to you today as a proud young member of Parliament from the Republic of South Africa, and more importantly, as a young African leader committed to the cause of youth empowerment and inclusive development. Today's engagement is special. As you may be aware, South Africa has been entrusted with hosting the 2025 G20 Speakers of Parliament Summit, or what we call the P20. In preparation for this milestone, we have deemed it important to brief you, the Pan-African Parliament, not just as participants, but as young partners in shaping Africa's contribution to the global parliamentary agenda on matters pertaining to young people. The fact that there are young parliamentarians from across our continent here today, representing the voices and aspirations of African youth, speaks for volumes about the progress we are making as a continent when it comes to our joint commitment to ensure that young people reach their true potential. This engagement aims to highlight the potential benefits of the P20 platform for African youth, explore the intersections of young issues with global parliamentary processes, and identify opportunities for African youth within continental and global development agendas. We are extremely happy because amongst those gracing these auspicious occasions are young people from different parliaments. And we must remember that young people are the young people of Africa, our continent's greatest resource. Honorable members, Africa is the youngest continent in the world. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 25. That statistic alone should give us pause, not because it presents a challenge, but because it presents a powerful opportunity. By 2050, Africa will have the largest working age population globally. In a world where many economies are grappling with aging populations, Africa holds a unique advantage, a demographic dividend that could fuel innovation, economic growth, and a social transformation. But this dividend is not automatic. It will only be realized if our leaders plan for it, invest in it, and include youth intentionally in our developmental strategies. Honorable members, the P20 must be used as a platform for youth-centered parliamentary diplomacy. The G20 Speakers Summit, the P20, is not just about protocol or political theater. It is a strategic space for shaping global solutions. And as host, South Africa must use this platform to elevate youth development as a core global priority, push for inclusive economic policies that address youth unemployment and inequality, secure commitments for access to quality education, digital innovation, and entrepreneurship for young people, and simply put, if we want global decisions to reflect African realities, our youth must be at the center of those decisions. Fellow Africans, let's not sugarcoat it. Across Africa, young people are facing deep structural challenges. There's sky-high unemployment, poor access to quality education, a widening skills mismatch, inadequate healthcare, limited access to capital and markets, and young people are victims of GBVF with a growing angry society in our midst. And there's a lack of strengthening of the anti-discrimination legislation on the LGBTQI+ young people. And also young people living with disabilities. We see some sectors and entities not complying with the minimum disability employment equity target. According to the IOL, over 72 million young Africans are not in education, unemployment, or training, and the majority are young women. That is unacceptable, it is a crisis, and it demands our urgent attention. The P20 must commit to not only talking about youth empowerment, but building systems that deliver on youth empowerment in legislation, in policy, and in budget allocations. Our priorities for the P20 must be clear. South Africa's P20 presidency intends to elevate key youth-related issues, including unemployment and skills. We need to invest in innovation, the green economy, and technical and vocational education to open real pathways for decent jobs. Furthermore, education and digital inclusion is very important. Quality education must be accessible to all, and in the digital age, STEM education and digital literacy are non-negotiables. In terms of health and well-being, mental health, sexual and reproductive health, and youth-friendly healthcare systems must be mainstreamed into global development conversations. And then in terms of entrepreneurship and business, our young entrepreneurs need access to capital markets and mentorship. They are building the African future. They need to be supported. In terms of aligning with the Agenda 2063 and Sustainable Development Goals, our work is already guided by powerful frameworks. Agenda 2063 speaks of a united, prosperous African driven by people, especially its youth. And the Sustainable Development Goals remind us that education, decent work, health, and reduced inequality are not optional, they are essential. Africa 2063, furthermore, envisions a prosperous Africa, and on Aspiration 6, It specifically promotes youth empowerment and full participation in society, the eradication of youth unemployment, access to education and skills and technology, and youth-driven innovation and entrepreneurship. But frameworks alone are not enough. The P20 is our opportunity to translate those frameworks into global parliamentary action. Honorable members, Africa must no longer be a site of extraction, but a hub of production, innovation, and opportunity. We urge the G20 under South Africa's leadership to champion reindustrialization strategies aligned with Agenda 2063. This includes investment in manufacturing, the green economy, and youth-driven industries that will create millions of dignified jobs. We do not want aid, we want partnership and African ownership of development. Let us not forget the transformative potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It offers unprecedented opportunities for youth-led businesses, digital age, innovation, and cross-border enterprise. But again, young people must be included in trade policy making if this promise is to be fulfilled. In conclusion, honorable members, the time to act is now. Africa is young, is rising, and Africa is young. We have a responsibility to ensure that the outcomes of our P20 engagements are not just felt in international halls of power, but in every village, in every township, and every corner of our continent. The expectations of our young people are high, and rightfully so. If we fail to act, we risk failing a generation. But if we rise to the occasion, if we lead boldly, plan inclusively, and collaborate across borders, we can change the future of the continent for the better. Let us use this opportunity not just to talk, but to act. Let this be the beginning of closer partnership, concrete outcomes, and a united youth voice on the global stage. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kumbaka, for that presentation. We'll now invite the Honorable Chairperson of the Youth Caucus of the Pan-African Parliament to present her perspectives on this matter. And just to indicate that after she has presented, there will be a short break.
تحية طيبة للجميع.
Greetings to all of you, Your Excellency, President of PAP, Honorable MPs, the Clerk, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the South African Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, members of the Pan-African Parliament. At the outset, I would like to express my thanks and appreciation for the representative of the Parliament of South Africa for this wonderful briefing, for this very detailed explanation for this summit that will be held or that South Africa will organize. In the outset, we would like to really highly appreciate the hosting of South African Parliament of the 11th session for the chairmanship of the G20, and also as the chair of the Youth Caucus in the South African Parliament, I would like really to welcome this idea to have attendees here and to listen to the most important categories of the African society, which is youth and women. This is really a democracy, this is awareness, and this is real willingness of my country, South Africa, to achieve real change in this category, youth and women. As the chair of a Youth Caucus, I would like really to extend thanks and appreciation for the Parliament of South Africa. I want to speak about two things. In fact, the lady who spoke about youth didn't leave a lot for me to speak about, but this is a very important topic. It's, in fact, it is related to youth, which representing or has a very good representation here. Since youth is the only category that no one here in the African continent can take any decision without listening to them, then listening to youth is very important. Engaging them in dialogue is very important. It is part of finding solution to the problems that are facing our youth. So I will speak about two things. As I said, I will speak about the challenges for youth in the African Parliament. In fact, youth are facing many problems, and they are really in a dire need of solutions to these problems. And then I will speak about I will give you some recommendations. And here we rely on the Parliament of South Africa and the country of South Africa, since it's one of the pioneering countries economically, in the African continent. We really rely on it to incorporate such recommendations and to make use of this economic World Economic Forum to speak about the problems of youth. From the challenges that youth are facing here in Africa, first we can speak about unemployment, weakness of the low access to quality education. Also, another problem, and till this moment, there are no policies in this regard that would find a realistic and practical solution for immigration. So this is immigration as a problem. Another problem, which is political marginalization. We have to make use of our positions now here as youth MPs and to make use of such international fora in order to call for more empowerment for African youth, in order to give them or in order to give them the opportunity to be listened to. And the African leaders would understand this. In fact, we cannot have people defending youth, and while we have this gap between youth and older people, so we have to provide a solution here. Also, lack of social justice. Also, we have a very big problem here that is being faced by the African youth, which is violence and extremism. And here I would like to comment on a sentence or a phrase mentioned by the lady who spoke about youth. She, in fact, spoke about youth, the disabled youth. In fact, this is a very important category, and here we have to learn that determination is in willingness, determination is in ambitions, and being ambitious. The second part of my intervention is some recommendations that I would like here to hand over to the representative of the South African Parliament. I would like to find this as a point of discussion in October during this summit. First, to develop a plan, tangible plan, in order to support employment and vocational training for youth. Second, promoting partnership in order to fund innovation and entrepreneurship, especially in relation to digital economy and green economy. 3, real investment in quality education, especially in the fields of science and technology. 4, support psychological health for youth in order to enable them to have a comprehensive health coverage. 5, enable youth or the empowerment of youth in order to take part in policies as real actors. And finally, an attempt to find a solution to empower youth in order to benefit from the ACFTA, because in fact a lot of African youth rely on the African Free Trade Area in this regard in order to find a prosperous future. And as I mentioned previously, youth need more. They need more in order to defend them. Thank you so much for listening. I would like to express again my thanks and appreciation for the Parliament of South Africa for listening to those two important categories that without which the African continent would never move forward, would never achieve development. We have to listen to youth, we have to listen to women. The African continent is a great continent with its youth. It needs to embrace more its youth, to listen more to its youth. And today, we really rely on the Summit of the African Parliaments, this huge summit that will take place in South Africa. We really rely on it in order to have the African youth voice listened, not as victims, not as youth who are suffering, but as youth who have innovation, who are creative, able to change. Long live Africa, strong with its youth, with its women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the Youth Caucus. At this point in the program, we will take a short break to take a family photo or a series of family photos. We would have taken them outside in the lawn, outside this chamber. However, I'm informed that it is now raining outside, and therefore we'll take a few minutes to just arrange the podium for purposes of the photographs, whereafter we will proceed to tea, which will be served in the foyer. So I'll now invite the head of Pan-African Parliament Media and Communications to come forward and let us know how we'll proceed, and for the Sergeant at Arms and the protocol to just arrange the stage for the photo.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, Excellency, co-chairs, honorable members. We are just going to ask for indulgence for a few minutes to arrange the podium, because obviously, as mentioned by the clerk, we were to take the photo outside, but Mother Nature is not allowing us to move forward. So we are going to move the podium, and first, of course, after the co-chairs take the picture, then the co-chairs will be joined by the deputy speakers and vice president who are here, before we invite all members of parliament to come and join us. So in doing so, Kennedy, please can you assist in moving things out?
"20 years ago, in March 2004, the Pan-African Parliament was established as a legislative body of the African Union with a vision of fostering unity, peace, and prosperity across the continent. Today, we celebrate 2 decades of its journey and achievements. The establishment of the Pan-African Parliament amongst the African Union organs signaled a historical milestone, and perhaps the most important development in the strengthening of the African Union institutional architecture. It laid solid grounds for the democratic governance and oversight within the African Union system, and provided a formal platform for the peoples of Africa to get involved in discussions and decision-making on issues affecting the continent. The genesis of the Pan-African Parliament can be legally traced back from 1991 with the adoption of the treaty establishing the African Economic Community, adopted on the 3rd of June.
May I call on the Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament and the Deputy Speakers from the National Assembly of South Africa and the NCOP to join us for the group photo, please. So at this juncture, I would like to invite all the honorable members who are in the room to join the co-chairs and deputy speakers and vice president for the group photo.
They are not there.
Distinguished delegates, tea and coffee for delegates will be served in the foyer, and for VIPs in the VIP lounge.
Are you coming back?
Yes, we are coming back for debates. and discussion. Thank you.
Could you please ask Congress Central to come down and fix the podium?
20 years ago, in March 2004, the Pan-African Parliament was established as a legislative body of the African Union with a vision of fostering unity, peace, and prosperity across the continent. Today, we celebrate 2 decades of its journey and achievements. The establishment of the Pan-African Parliament amongst the African Union organs signaled a historical milestone and perhaps the most important development in the strengthening of the African Union institutional architecture. It laid solid grounds for the democratic governance and oversight within the African Union system and provided a formal platform for the peoples of Africa to get involved in discussions and decision-making on issues affecting the continent. The genesis of the Pan-African Parliament can be legally traced back from 1991 with the adoption of the treaty establishing the African Economic Community, adopted on the 3rd of June 1991 in Abuja, also known as the Abuja Treaty. This treaty defined the pillars and grounds of realizing economic development and integration in Africa and called for the creation of a continental parliament amongst a set of organs as tools for the realization of African integration and economic development. This call was re-emphasized in the Sirte Declaration of 1999, which called for the accelerated implementation of the provisions of the Abuja Treaty. At the time of the transformation of the Organization of African Unity into the African Union, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, in keeping with the vision of the signatories to the Abuja Treaty and the Sirte Declaration, set out the AU institutional architecture, which included the PAP. The Pan-African Parliament celebrated its 10 years of existence in March 2014, a year which coincided with the adoption on 27th June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, of the protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament, PAP Malabo Protocol, which once in force will transform the PAP into a quasi-legislative body of the AU. While the PAP Malabo Protocol requires 28 ratifications for its entry into force, it has to date been ratified by 15 AU member states with 21 signatures. For the time being, the PAP continues to operate under the Sirte Protocol, which defines its mandate. 6 parliaments have been inaugurated since 2004.
So we cannot revolutionize the situation of Africa if we don't take the women seriously and don't change the work of women into a better, with technology, applying technology and science.
À cet effet, je sollicite la participation active et sans réserve des parlementaires nationaux, régionaux et panafricains à soutenir la position commune et unique de l'Afrique d'un côté des gouvernements africains, car l'enjeu n'est plus technique, mais politique. Il s'agit d'affirmer le soutien des parlementaires que nous sommes à tous les échelons régionaux pour que vive le protocole de Kyoto pour la survie de notre continent.
The Pan-African Parliament remains a platform for African people and their grassroots organizations to make an input into the decision-making process on challenges and problems facing our continent.
La première leçon que je tire, c'est que le Parlement est en bonne voie. La deuxième leçon, c'est que nous avons pris un certain nombre de résolutions, notamment cette résolution concernant la ratification du protocole de Malabo, qui fera du Parlement panafricain un organe législatif. Et nous pensons que ce message doit aller dans chaque État partie pour que nous puissions ratifier.
We've gone some way in reviving, renewing, repositioning and reinvigorating the Pan-African Parliament in line with our whole strategic thrust. We have a lot of issues on this continent. As people have confidence in us, they are simply saying, you are the right people to push the agenda of the continent. And the agenda of the continent is littered with a lot of challenges.
The PAP has made commendable efforts in promoting the ratification, domestication, and implementation of the AU Shared Values Instruments, including the ratification of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance, African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, African Charter on Values and Principles of Public Service and Administration, African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, amongst others. The 20th anniversary commemoration serves as a platform to educate citizens about the PAP and ignite conversations about the future of the Continental Parliament in line with its mandate. The occasion further serves as a reminder to decision makers around the continent to fulfill their commitment to the PAP by ratifying its revised protocol, now 20 years after sanctioning its establishment. The Parliament has embarked on a process of reviving, renewing, repositioning, and reinvigorating itself to outline a vision for the future, identifying key areas for improvement and expansion, and emphasize the role of the Parliament in the African Union's Agenda 2063 and other regional development initiatives. It's time to reflect on the journey and chart a path forward. 20 years ago, in March 2004, the Pan-African Parliament was established as a legislative body of the African Union with a vision of fostering unity, peace, and prosperity across Treaty and the Sirte Declaration set out the AU institutional architecture, which included the PAP. The Pan-African Parliament celebrated its 10 years of existence in March 2014, a year which coincided with the adoption on 27th June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, of the Protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament, PAP Malabo Protocol, which once in force will transform the PAP into a quasi-legislative body of the AU. While the PAP Malabo Protocol requires 28 ratifications for its entry into force, it has to date been ratified by 15 AU member states with 21 signatures. For the time being, the PAP continues to operate under the Sirte Protocol, which defines its mandate. 6 parliaments have been inaugurated since 2004.
So we cannot revolutionize the situation of Africa if we don't take the women seriously and don't change the work of women into a better, with technology, applying technology and science.
À cet effet, je sollicite la participation active et sans réserve des parlementaires nationaux, régionaux et panafricains à soutenir la position commune et unique de l'Afrique côté des gouvernements africains, car l'enjeu n'est plus technique, mais politique. Il s'agit d'affirmer le soutien des parlementaires que nous sommes à tous les échelons régionaux pour que vive le protocole de Kyoto pour la survie de notre continent.
The Pan-African Parliament remains a platform for African people and their grassroots organizations to make an input into the decision-making process on the challenges and problems facing our continent.
La première leçon que je tire, c'est que le Parlement est en bonne voie. La deuxième leçon, c'est que nous avons pris un certain nombre de résolutions, notamment cette résolution concernant la ratification du protocole de Malabo, qui fera du Parlement panafricain un organe législatif. Et nous pensons que ce message doit aller dans chaque État partie pour que nous puissions ratifier.
We've gone some way in reviving, renewing, repositioning, and reinvigorating the Pan-African Parliament in line with our own strategic thrust. We have a lot of issues on this continent. As people have confidence in us, they are simply saying, you are the right people to push the agenda of the continent. And the agenda of the continent is littered with a lot of challenges.
The PAP has made commendable efforts in promoting the ratification, domestication, and implementation of the AU Shared Values Instruments, including the ratification of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance, African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, African Charter on Values and Principles of Public Service and Administration, African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, amongst others. The 20th anniversary commemoration serves as a platform to educate citizens about the PAP and ignite conversations about the future of the Continental Parliament in line with its mandate. The occasion further serves as a reminder to decision makers around the continent to fulfill their commitment to the PAP by ratifying its revised protocol, now 20 years after sanctioning its establishment. The Parliament has embarked on a process of reviving, renewing, repositioning, and reinvigorating itself to outline a vision for the future, identifying key areas for improvement and expansion, and emphasize the role of the Parliament in the African Union's Agenda 2063 and other regional development initiatives. It's time to reflect on the journey and chart a path forward. "20 years ago, in March 2004, the Pan-African Parliament was established as a legislative body of the African Union with a vision of fostering unity, peace, and prosperity across the continent. Today, we celebrate 2 decades of its journey and achievements. The establishment of the Pan-African Parliament amongst the African Union organs signaled a historical milestone and perhaps the most important development in the strengthening of the African Union institutional architecture. It laid solid grounds for the democratic governance and oversight within the African Union system and provided a formal platform for the peoples of Africa to get involved in discussions and decision-making on issues affecting the continent. The genesis of the Pan-African Parliament can be legally traced back from 1991 with the adoption of the treaty establishing the African Economic Community, adopted on the 3rd of June 1991 in Abuja, also known as the Abuja Treaty. This treaty defined the pillars and grounds of realizing economic development and integration in Africa, and called for the creation of a continental parliament amongst a set of organs as tools for the realization of African integration and economic development. This call was re-emphasized in the Sirte Declaration of 1999, which called for the accelerated implementation of the provisions of the Abuja Treaty. At the time of the transformation of the Organization of African Unity into the African Union, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, in keeping with the vision of the signatories to the Abuja Treaty and the Sirte Declaration, set out the AU institutional architecture, which included the PAP. The Pan-African Parliament celebrated its 10 years of existence in March 2014, a year which coincided with the adoption on 27th June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, of the Protocol to the Constitutive Act of the African Union relating to the Pan-African Parliament, PAP Malabo Protocol, which once enforced will transform the PAP into a quasi-legislative body of the AU. While the PAP Malabo Protocol requires 28 ratifications for its entry into force, it has to date been ratified by 15 AU member states with 21 signatures. For the time being, the PAP continues to operate under the Sirte Protocol, which defines its mandate. 6 parliaments have been inaugurated since 2004.
So we cannot revolutionize the situation of Africa if we don't take the women seriously and don't change the work of women into a better, with technology, applying technology and science.
Honorable members and distinguished delegates, I would like us all to take our seats. The program is about to commence, and the co-chairs will join us shortly. If the ushers can help invite members back into the chamber, I'd appreciate that. Thanks. May I call the room to order, please? At this stage, the co-chairs will steer discussion and debate amongst honorable members and delegates. I wish to hand over to the co-chairs for this purpose.
I'll give you opportunity to the co-chair, my co-chair, to lead in the discussions. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, colleagues. It is your turn to engage on the discussions. We've had about 4 presentations that were made, and at this point in time, we want to open to the plenary to give your insight based on what was presented before you. I see the hand of Honorable Victoria.
Thank you so much. Let me thank the President of Pan-African Parliament and you, Madam Chair, maybe in interest of time or protocol observes. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Parliament of South Africa for convening this meeting. But all in all, I also want to thank His Excellency, Chief Fortune Charumbira, for giving us this chance. Indeed, the P20 is coming to South Africa, and I'm happy that we are part of it because it's not for South Africa only, it's for the whole continent of Africa. And to engage the members of Pan-African Parliament, it means you are interacting with the whole continent of Africa. I will not waste much of my time. Mainly, I wanted to dwell on women or youth living with disabilities. When I was listening to the youth speech, they mentioned about disabilities. Maybe I missed in the person presented about women gender. I did not take it that she mentioned about women living with disabilities. I would like to urge you, if it's there, fair enough. But if you've not included, let's have these people on a special platform. Because she mentioned about including like economic empowerment. Imagine a woman living with disabilities with another woman without disabilities. You cannot empower them at the same platform. Definitely there should be a difference between these two, because one is living with disabilities, one without disabilities. So I want them to take this forward, wherever you're coming up with the last solution. People living with disabilities, let's give them a special platform. They should not be the same as normal, people without disabilities, because these people, they need more than a normal woman without disabilities. That's the point I wanted to make. However, all in all, wishing you well, the South African Parliament, as will be convening the P20 meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Victoria. We take note of what you have raised. I think it's very critical. Is there any Honorable Modise?
Thank you so much, Chair, and I stand on the already established protocol. And I want to welcome all the presentations that were made today and indicate to the House, Chair, that I'm going to be as short as my height with my contribution. Chair, back in the day when I was still a youth, I was in International Secretary for Africa-China Youth Forum. And every time young people in Africa wanted to meet...
Sorry, what forum?
Africa-China Youth Forum.
Oh, Africa-China, thank you.
And every time young people in Africa wanted to meet, I had to write to the government of China to organize flights, accommodation, and we'll be meeting in China and not in Africa. And with this meeting, this big meeting that is coming, the P20 in South Africa, is it possible, Chair, that Pan-African Parliament can coordinate young people across the continent to come here, meet on their own, discuss their own issues, develop a discussion document that will come from that discussion that will be contributed to this big meeting that is coming, where young people are able to say in unison, nothing about us without us and the entire continent, not only in SADC, not only in ECOWAS, and so on and so forth, but the whole continent of Africa, speaking in one voice. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. And there's another hand right up there. Please pardon me, I may not know the honorable member's surname, as well as honorable member, I note you. There's a third hand, and then there's a fourth hand, fifth hand.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair, my chairperson in the NCOP, and greetings to all honorable members that are gathered here. I just want to raise the one issue on the youth parliament that was raised here. It is something that needs a lot of attention, and that is the issue of youth migration, especially across our continent. We always talk about the Africa free trade area, but why can't we have an Africa where people can travel across the continent without having to apply for passports and visas and things like that? That will greatly assist young people to move across our continent and be able to engage, be it in economics or any other field. That is the one issue. The second one is with regard to artificial intelligence and science and technology. I think that is something that we need to pay more attention to when it comes to our youth, and create opportunities for them to engage in AI, especially now that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Regarding women issue, Chair, there's one issue of the systemic barriers that prevent women from engaging in all spheres of life. We need to ensure that we break down those systemic barriers so that we create the opportunities for women participation at all levels of the economic value chain. Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. Honorable member right there at the top, you are next. I think you'll be the sixth
thank
one,
you,
Honorable
Co-Chair. Honorable President of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Members of Parliament of South Africa, distinguished colleagues, guests, allow me to begin by thanking the Parliament of South Africa for its leadership in hosting the upcoming P20 Speakers Summit, and for giving us space for the voices of women and youth, the twin pillars of Africa's future. The engagement demonstrates not only South Africa's commitment to inclusive development, but also recognition that no global policy can succeed if women and youth remain on the periphery of decision-making. Honorable members, for the African women, the P20 represents a historic opportunity. It is the first time this global parliamentary forum will convene on African soil, and it must not be symbolic alone. It is our moment to influence global discourse, to shift gender equality from policy rhetorics to concrete implementation. Our parliaments must be on the forefront of passing gender-responsive legislation, laws that eliminate workspace discrimination, protect pregnant women, workers, and penalize sexual harassment. Economic empowerment, ensuring equal land ownership rights, quotas on corporate boards, and preferential procurement for women-owned enterprises. Reproductive health rights, guaranteeing universal maternal health care, access to contraception, and adolescent-friendly services. Oversight and accountability, resourcing our gender committees to monitor budgets, conventions, and national compliance with Maputo Protocol and AU Convention for Ending Violence Against Women. The frameworks are there: the Maputo Protocol, the Beijing Platform, Agenda 2063. What is needed now is implementation with urgency. When we empower women, we transform families, communities, and nations. Gender equality is not a woman's issue. It's a developmental, it is a developmental imperative. Africa is the youngest continent in the world. By 2050, we will have the largest working age population globally. But this demographic dividend is not guaranteed. It will only be realized if we invest in our youth, in education, skills, entrepreneurship, and digital innovation. The P20 must place youth empowerment at the heart of its agenda, tackling youth unemployment through technical and vocational training, the green economy, and reindustrialization, expanding access to STEM education and digital literacy, ensuring Africa's youth are ready for the jobs of the future, supporting young entrepreneurs with access to capital, markets, and mentorship, protecting vulnerable groups, including young women, persons with disability, and LGBTQI+, youth from systemic exclusion, leveraging AFTA to create cross-border opportunities for young-led enterprises. Honorable members, the voices of women and youth are not optional add-ons. They are heartbeats for Africa's progress. The upcoming P20 is our chance to ensure that African priorities shape global policies. We must speak with one voice as parliamentarians, as Africans, to demand global solidarity on climate and gender, ensuring women lead climate adaptation efforts, investments in education, healthcare, and innovation that reflect Africa's demographic realities. A seat on the table, not as observers, but as equal partners shaping solution. In conclusion, the time for action is now. The frameworks are strong, the statistics are clear, and the needs are urgent. Our duty is to move from commitment to delivery, from policy to practice. Let our work here at the Pan-African Parliament echo in every village, every township, and every corner of Africa. Let the P20 outcomes be shaped by the strength of the African woman, the energy of the African youth, and the unity of our collective voice. When African women rise, Africa rises. When African youth lead, Africa thrives. Let us seize this moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Esther. The next speaker is the Honorable Member just here in front.
Thank you so much. This is Honorable Miriam Chonya, Member of Parliament from Zambia. I wanted to speak. First of all, let me also recognize the necessary protocols as has earlier been established. But I wanted to speak also briefly in support of the issues that the two presenters raised from the youths and also the women. And I also agree already with what those who have spoken before me have said, which is agreeing with what has been put across ably by the youth themselves, because their issues were very well elaborated, and their issues are also very familiar issues that we've spoken about over and over again. I mean, you cannot talk about youths without the need to invest in them by way of education and skills so that they can be productive citizens. The issues of sexual reproductive health, as has been articulated, are really everyone's core and wish and desire is that we begin to see that these particular issues begin to be addressed. We can use different languages and expressions here to say the same thing. You know, even as this advert here keeps playing about the establishment of Pan-African Parliament 20 years ago, And I was saying, if we look at this whole period of time, I'm sure that these were the issues that were under discussion, even at the inception of this parliament, which has existed for the last 20 years. I myself, was at some point a youth advocate, and now I'm becoming a grandmother. In fact, I am a grandmother, but those issues that we have advocated through and through, are taking long, to take shape. However, I must, in fact, pay tribute to the Namibian president, Madam Ndaitwa, who has demonstrated a true commitment to gender equality in governance by appointing a number of women to, various positions in her government. That is very highly commendable, and I thought we should put that on record, as women of Africa, that we indeed want to see, more of that happen elsewhere, and also even our male presidents emulate, that good demonstration by the Namibian president. Of course, back home, we have at the moment, an effort to review and reform, our constitution. And one of the issues is about trying to bring in these quotas and for women and youth, as it has happened elsewhere. But of course, this is being received, by mixed feelings. You get taken aback, when this one prominent lawyer and lawyers are usually regarded as land counsels, but who don't seem to know in which direction the globe is moving towards these issues of representation, because he was to be the one standing on the hilltop, to oppose this introduction of quotas in the Zambian parliament. This was rather unfortunate, but we believe that with the continued sensitization and the interaction of our heads of state and government, even through such forums, will help, to change the shade of the levels to which our youths and women participate, not only in the economic spheres, but also in the political spheres, and indeed, in all walks of life. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. May I invite the Honourable Member who's seated next to Honourable Esther.
Introduce yourself. Thank you, Chair. My name is Rehab Mukami Washira, Member of Parliament from Kenya. Chair, I want first to thank all the speakers who have done the presentation. And I want to say this debate is long overdue. I also want to thank the South Africa for holding the 11th G20 Parliamentary Speakers Summit. Chair, it's true we have so many challenges within Africa. Our youth are suffering, and our youth are majority. Like in Kenya, we are going through a lot, because now our youth are the ones who are saying now this is their time, and they are calling themselves Gen Zs. We have a problem with employment, and I want to give a solution. We need to start up grants, incubation centers, and access to credit, that our youth can be young entrepreneurship, and we can give them credit to start their small businesses, because even if we try to employ them, we can't afford, because there are so many. We also need to promote job-rich sectors like agriculture, digital economy, green energy, and creative industries. Public-private partnership to offer internship and job placement. We need to improve their education and invest in affordable and inclusive education, especially in rural areas and marginalized areas. Reforms curriculum to include critical thinking, digital skills, and life skill. We also need to take them to the vocational training. There are those youth, they have technical skills, but they don't know where to start. If we take them to vocational training, they will be able now to get employed in the Juakari areas. We have to enhance skills development, expert technical and vocational education, training, TVET programs. When we come to women issues, I always say women are the pillars of our homes and in our countries. If you empower women, you empower the whole society. So what I want to say about women, gender equality is a society issue. Let our voice be heard for African woman and girl child. Climate and gender integration, gender-based violence prevention and response. Light of women and girls should be felt all over Africa. Now, not in the papers. Gender law for women, economic empowerment to maternal health care. What I want to say in summary, our share, this is long overdue. Let's empower our youth and empower our women. Time of action is now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. May I invite the Honourable Member? Yes.
Good afternoon, President. Good afternoon, dear Excellencies. I am Honorable Famaba from Senegal. Okay, I would like to ask our brothers and fathers, please, to respect women and empower women. We see that here in Africa, women is looked down, and it's a very big problem. The most important thing that is in Africa, woman is not respected. Sometimes I ask myself, isn't it because African black people don't respect women, and that's why we heritage all miserable things here in Africa? I'm so sorry to tell that, but women should be respected. We have problem of parental authorities. Here, I would like to talk it in French. Nous avons un problème de l'autorité parentale.
We have an issue of parental authority. Did I lose her? As women, every time we work for 10 years and we spend the money in 24 hours, let's look at parity. We are misunderstood by men. We should have equal opportunities. Let me talk to the youths now. Dear young Africans, each time there's a revolution, it is the youth and the women that bear the brunt of it. So I would like to request that there be love, brotherly love and solidarity, because with the mothers or with the founding fathers of Africa, they upheld women like Nelson Mandela. So our young people need to continue praying and working. They need to be trained. They need to be educated anew. They need to be brought to a place where their target is excellence. And if we follow these steps, then we would be a better Africa. In one of Ngugi wa Thiong'o's books,
for me, for true sacrifice, Africa should be united. Women should go hand to hand and be together and develop Africa. I should have to ask also justice for Africa. Vive le Sénégal, vive l'Afrique, vive le...
Long live Senegal, long live Africa, and long live PAP.
Long live. I noted the hand, there's quite a number of hands now. The Vice President, may I, can you please allow me, honourable members, maybe to take the hands, all the hands this side, and then I'll come back to this row so that I'm not confused. The more as we proceed, there's an appetite to engage on these matters. Yes, the Vice President.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious, thank you very much, Mrs. Chair, and I would like to thank the South African Parliament for this kind invitation and to also share those information. With regards to the topic of today, the participation of women and youth in the political work, I see it is important for many reasons. One, that the participation of women guarantees the realization of principles of equality between for the duties and responsibilities, because the women constitutes the half of society, and it is illogical and unfair that the political decisions are taken without its representation, as the true democracy is not complete without the active participation of women, either as participants or decision making. The presence of women in positions of decision making brings different views that helps with taking big decisions and makes it more balanced. As many of the cases that pertaining to women and families are marginalized when the women are absent in the center of influence. So the participation of women guarantees highlighting those cases and put it within the political priorities. And that is also applicable to the youth participation. Studies have proven that communities which encourages the participation of women and youth realize higher rates of stability and sustainable development. We in Mauritania, with the support of His Excellency President Al-Ghazouani, women present in the decision-making positions, and there was electoral lists for women and youth to enable them to present in the parliament in a fair rate or fair percentage. But we always demand more. We are seeking more participation and representation of all African women and youth. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice President. May I recognize the honorable member just behind the Vice President?
Shukran. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chairperson. Thank you for allowing us to engage in this important topic. As I told my colleagues from South Africa, that I am so proud of holding the G20 in South Africa, and I'm proud as an African, because this would increase or increase the value of our dear continent. There are two topics, the topic of women and youth. With regards to both topics, they can be given an opportunity through us as members of our parliament, through changing the electoral laws to enable them to be present in the election lists and to be present in the positions of decision making. For example, in Tunisia, today the President Kais Saied appoint a prime minister as a woman, which who rules or who manages all the works of a government, and this is the second time. Second time we have a woman to be appointed as a prime minister, and this is not strange because because women knows how to manage and very good with administration, better than a man, I would say. There is also a remark, my dear colleagues, for those who deliberate about the topic of women. We always talk about equality. We talk that women should get the same rights as men. But all of this, you know, we talk about it in only women meeting. Where are the men in those meetings? The men should be convinced, and they should be convinced that the women should be present. But because when the men are convinced, so you as a woman, you win. So you agree with the other party who would prevent you from rising. So when we have males who support women, that would give more to women. For example, there are great leaders like Nelson Mandela and Samora Machel and Goodluck Jonathan. Those prominent leaders fought for the rights of women, and they let the voice of women be heard. So the man can be like that, can be a champion for women case, woman cause, and that's what we advocate for. Because I attended many seminars about women, and we learned so much that that men should also support women. We are not in competition. As my colleague said, we should walk hand in hand for the benefit of Africa. For youth, the youth, they are waiting for an opportunity. They are present in all African structures. Thank God I can see now many of the young males and females present in the Pan-African Parliament. I was so happy to see the youth in the Parliament of South Africa. They are all young, so there is a vision. There would be a new vision for Africa. Africa that is united by technology, that is used by youth, and with the vision of those youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Can I recognize the hand of the Honourable Madam, and then she will then be followed by the Honourable Member.
Bon après-midi tout le monde. Dans un premier temps, je voudrais féliciter.
First of all, I would like to commend and thank the National Assembly of South Africa for the various presentations made here, and which were very edifying. I would like to close on the... Let me introduce myself. I'm Madame Safia Etmi from the Parliament of Djibouti. I would like to come back on the role of the African Parliament in the promotion of women empowerment and equality of sex or gender. When we look at our reality in Africa, it is different. Why do we want to do women's empowerment? Sometimes we say it should be done, but when we have obstacles to this, then we should be able to focus on these obstacles before talking about empowerment. If I have to mention a few here, they may be cultural with regard to education, or from an economic standpoint. I think there's much work to be done. I would also talk about land issues or the land law. When a woman in Africa or some countries in Africa require a woman to require her husband's authority or the authority of a father or a brother or anyone else to obtain land, then it's a problem. When you are a housewife, there are also issues at home. When you have to go for a loan, you go to the bank. In Africa, in countries where there's some countries in which they will require the man to authorize. If you talk about education, where the young girl has to stay at home and assist her mother while the young boy goes to school, I think it is another obstacle to women's empowerment. So if I go to health, in Africa, we have only 3 countries which respected the Abuja Declaration to hand over 15% of the budget, the national budget, to public health. Only 3 countries respected that declaration. And death among mothers and children is very high in Africa. Let me go back to health. Universal health insurance doesn't exist anywhere in Africa. That's where we could have been able to help our women and children if we had this insurance and prevent them from dying. Access to loans. Banks are very distant. In the rural areas, we have few banks. Even when you ask for a loan, the interest rates are very high, and women cannot have these loans. That's another obstacle. If you have to mention gender-based violence, young girls are raped or women are raped. Sometimes there are adverse or harmful traditional practices like female genital mutilation. All these are indicative of the fact that there's so much to be done before we get to the point where we can wish to promote the health of the woman and women's empowerment. I'm of the opinion that we have to brainstorm and review all the national laws which don't promote women. For instance, the law on quotas. We have at least about 10% in some countries, 15% in other countries. Elsewhere, it's 25%, like in my country. Why do we have these quotas? Why not the right person at the right place? Why do we have to raise barriers for women to occupy good positions? Why are we bound to have such walls raised? I think there's much to be done before getting to our destination. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member, yes, it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also want to add my voice to this very important P20 summit. Madam Speaker, I would like to first start to quote from Thomas Sankara, who said, "Comrades, there is no true social revolution without the liberation of women." And I believe women participated a lot to the liberation of this continent. Women were warlords. They fought against imperialism and colonialism. And if you go back to history, let us not assume that women were not having significant role in Africa. Women were recognized in our society as our mothers, as our carers, as our bearers. Along the line, something happened, which we all know they are left behind. But we will not stand here and say women are not treated well. The gaps that are there now, we have to look into the laws. But sometimes it's very disheartening. You see women fighting against the progress of women. You bring a law to the parliament because you are not in good time with a woman who is a mover or who introduced the bill. You will see women in that parliament fighting against that bill. Progressive bill, like quota system, women empowerment. It happens in the Gambia. It was men who stood on the floor to fight for that bill to pass. So that's why I'm very happy when an honorable member of Tunisia said, women alone cannot do it. Secondly, Your Excellency, we've been talking about women empowerment, supporting women. Who are we supporting? Are we supporting only educated women or educated elites? We need to do research in this. How many women are benefiting from all these schemes? In the name of rural women, we raise funds. Do we give them those funds? And how do they access the funds? Political biasness is seen naked in terms of resource allocation, in terms of accessing those resources. The government in power will bring those resources and give it to only the party members, women in that party. And sometimes when they are giving them loans, they don't make it clear to them that whether this is a revolving loan or not. So if it is given on a platform, do you expect that loan to be paid back? So that's why we have a lot of challenges. We must speak truth to each other. We must be honest to each other. We must know that there are hundreds of thousands of women who are still suffering with the local traditional hosts in the farms. They cannot have access to market. They are still using the prototype tool to farm, to feed their families. So those who are fortunate enough to be educated, we must hold the bull by the horn and visit these people in their local communities and work with them. Chairman, come to postings. I was a teacher. Some women, if you ask them to go to the provinces and teach there, they refuse. How can we become pioneers? So we must be ready to fulfill the mission. And it's high time, somebody said here, it's time for action. The reason why we say gender is both of us. We all need to participate in the emancipation and the empowerment of women. To see that women are well empowered, they have access to all resources, politically, socially, economically. I thank you all for your kind attention, but I think this meeting is timely and is a very important meeting. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Member. Can I recognize the Honourable Member at the back?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for giving the floor. Dear colleagues, honorable MPs, I would like to piggyback on the issue of the youth. When I talk about this youth, I'm referring to the two sexes, the female and the male sexes. Madam President, we would like that the young people be at the heart of our concerns, or the center of our concerns. Young people need to be at the center of decision making as the future of as posterity. Recently, I paid a visit to Soweto. The images that we saw there that are on the wall are young students, young high school, university students that have freed this country at the price of their lives. But if we have to free our continent, we have to appeal to the youth. We have to appeal to young people. If we have to liberate the country, we have to appeal to young people. Recently in Senegal, especially in Koga, the young people took great part in liberating and establishing justice and democracy. We need to applaud these young people for their feat. We need to learn to give a voice to young people. The contribution of young people and is a precondition for any political or social progress. Young people in power seeks two objectives:
supporting people in achieving their projects for the benefit of their own community by promoting justice and the empowerment of young people. Madam President, the place of young people in the parliament should be introduced. We need to introduce young people as MPs because they are well placed to defend policies that tackle root causes of conflicts, especially social and economic disparities, marginalization, and a lack of access to education and possibility of employment for young people. The parliament needs to be a platform that allows young people to express their opinion and to take part in decision making. The main issue of young people is that of corruption. Young people is a thorny problem for Africa. In Africa, we have young people who have been corrupted by businessmen, and they are being pushed to sacrifice their lives and to emigrate from the continent. Madam President, about 5,600 young people who have been interviewed feel that corruption is the greatest obstacle to their personal development and a better life. To wrap up, Madam President, we have to train these young people. We have to fund these young people. We have to support and encourage these young people to work, stay back at home and work and put an end to illegal immigration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I note, can I take the hand? Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would like to acknowledge the young parliamentarian. I was quite impressed with her eloquency and her confidence when she did her presentation. I'm also from a parliament that's quite young. Madam Chair, in the Gambia, I think 75% of our parliamentarians are youth, if I can be corrected. I'm only 54, and I'm one of the oldest in my parliament. So I think we should applaud Gambians for electing young people. And Madam Chair, Africa has a population of 1.5 billion. I think as parliamentarians, we should consider these figures very well, because we approve budgets in our countries. And when we approve budgets, they should reflect the demographics of our countries. When we approve budgets, they should be reflective of the needs of the states of affairs in our countries. Madam Chair, out of that 1.5 billion in Africa, 400 million are young people under the age of 35. I think they should be reflected in the AU when we do what we do at the African Union. 50% of that is women. Madam Chair, we applaud the AU for doing what they are supposed to do by ratifying the Convention ending violence against young women and against women and girls, I beg your pardon. Madam Chair, I am proud to say that Gambia have signed that convention yesterday, and we are looking forward to ratifying it in our National Assembly. We all sit here from different parliaments. I urge each and every one of us to go back to our countries and make sure that they sign and ratify as soon as possible. The strength and power of Africa lies on the youth and on the women. We are not discounting the strength of the men. Like somebody said, we are not competing, and definitely we are not competing. We applaud and appreciate the efforts of men, like my honorable colleague have just mentioned. We tabled a bill for women representation to reserve seats for women in my parliament. And thanks to the men, they supported. Because we did not have enough women in the parliament, we depended on the men to support us. But unfortunately, we did not have enough support. So we are not only women, we are mothers to those men. We are daughters to those men. We are wives to those men. And to our children, we need to teach them in early ages that they need to stand up for the other gender, which is the woman. We should not see ourselves as inferior to men. We should be seen side by side, because without that, we will not progress. Madam Chair, as Madam Salif had said, she is the first democratically elected female president in the continent. She said, if your dreams are not big enough, if you do not dream, if your dream does not scare you, it is not big enough. And as female, we need to have dreams that scare us. We shouldn't just dream of 30%. That is not big enough. It will not scare us. We should think of 50-50. Side by side, we can progress the Africa continent, Madam Chair. And for the youths, we need not only count them in numbers, we need to invest in their socio-economic development. They are the future of the country. They are the future of the continent. We stood here proudly listening to Madam Honorable from the South African Parliament, and her eloquency, her confidence shows that she had great investment not only by her country, but by her parents. Because without that parental support, she wouldn't have stood here today to present herself. So we say thank you to our parents, but we also say thank you to our countries. But as parliamentarians, we need to go back and make sure that our countries follow the efforts of the African Union and ratify the convention, sign and ratify the convention, without which women shall not progress. And without women progressing, the continent shall not progress. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. I have also noted the hand right at the back. Honourable Member, yes, you may rise.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It is an honor for me to take part in this August Assembly on this very interesting topic that has been raised today, and that concerns women and young people, and that who are the future of our continent. This issue has to make us take a stance for Africa in order to tackle the challenges of our time. The situation of young people and women wants special attention. They represent not only the future of Africa, they are also the present of Africa. That's why they have to be at the center of all our public policies and development strategies. Africa has a demographic asset, a young and dynamic population that are creative and also resilient. We need to unlock this potential into growth by investing massively in education, vocational training, entrepreneurship, technology, by ensuring that there's effective inclusiveness of women at all decision-making level. It is only then that we can build a strong and united Africa. Africa can develop. Africa can make progress. Africa will never be able to compare with the great countries if the issue of young people and women are not well taken off or included in our policies. Many countries today are leading the way. For example, the Senegal, that has at its helm young people who are managing, and it's an example to be emulated by the rest of Africa. We need to continue supporting these young people and encouraging them and making them dream that Africa has a lot of potential. It's teeming with resources. And if these resources are well exploited and managed, Africa could compare with the rest of other great countries. That's the only way we can encourage young African people and with women in Africa, because women is at the center of all development. We can't achieve any development, we can't make any progress without the woman. So together, we Africans have to deal with the issue of the woman, to enable the woman to take center stage, so that the woman who's appreciated by God himself should lead the way in development. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Can I recognize the Honourable Member?
Bon après-midi tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would first of all like to congratulate the organizing of this fruitful event that is taking place today before this August Assembly. I also like to congratulate the South African Parliament for their enlightening presentations. As you may be well aware, in the African Union Convention that was adopted in 2025 on the elimination of violence against women and girls is a good instrument to fight against this scourge in Africa. By promoting women's rights and strengthening the protection of victims and bringing the perpetrators of violence to book. I have a question to ask, and the honorable member already preceded me in this slide. It is about the ratification of this convention. Do we have information on countries that have already ratified it and incorporated it into the national laws? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I think I'm done, Honourable Members, from this row, and I'll just quickly move to this row and come back to this row. I noted the hand of Honourable Member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'd like to follow suit on the rest of the House to congratulate South Africa on hosting the G20 later this year, and also to welcome the presentation that was done by my honourable colleague, Honourable Kumbatka, which was very enlightening. I think one of the issues, Honourable Chair, that I appreciate that we are parliamentarians, most of us. And I think what we are not advocating enough for in terms of moving young people together is infrastructure development in our countries, Honourable House Chair. We've got a vibrant young population that is limited and impeded because our countries are unable to really foster and facilitate active movements of young people cross-sectionally. One of our colleagues also talked about how we as young parliamentarians at a time used to host meetings for Africans in China. It would be great that one day when we come back again, we don't just speak about a P20 in South Africa only, but the other countries in Africa are also able really to invest enough in the infrastructure, get young people involved so that we can solve the triple issues of unemployment, of poverty, and marginalization of young people and women. I would like for us to really think about infrastructure development and how we can really get young people to participate and move around the country. Let's put our road networks, let them come together so that we are integrated, and that next time when we speak about a G20, we can speak about a G20 being held in another country in Africa. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. We are now moving towards this row. Can I recognize the hand right there at the back, the first one to rise? Honourable Member.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Okay, that's fine. You can proceed.
Je remercie
you will then,
l'Assemblée nationale de l'Afrique du Sud.
So thank you very much, Madam.
I thank the South African Parliament. I have keenly listened to all my colleagues and all of what they have said so far, but I have a question. When you talk about gender equality, I think this is only possible for female intellectuals. If we decide today to assign an intellectual woman to a village to be a teacher or medical doctor, etc., these women are unwilling to go. This is a challenge we have. The issue of women and gender equality, in my opinion, really is something which is beneficial to intellectuals, the women we have in our villages and in the provinces. These women are not educated. Why don't we begin by getting these women educated? These women wake up in the morning, they sweep the yard, they fetch water, they prepare tea, and eventually they go to the farms. They come back in the evenings, they cook dinner. Did we take time out to think of collecting data of all these challenges women face? And as far as the Central African Republic is concerned, we voted this law 5 years ago, but this is quite, I would say, insignificant because we need a lot more for women empowerment. So I encourage PAP to collect data on all laws which have been voted in favor of women. This is what I had to say, Chairperson. Thank you so much. I would introduce myself. I am Masikini Mathurin, MP from the Central African Republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I would like to thank South Africa for organizing this event, which is a key milestone in harnessing parliamentary diplomacy. I applaud the young parliamentarians with their efforts for their aspirations to be realized at the G20 summit. If Africa wants to invest in the future, it must invest in the young people. On women, Honorable Chair, we must also know that women in Africa, we are the backbone of Africa. African women plays a crucial role in advancing women's rights and gender equality on the continent. That include promoting gender-sensitive legislation, advocating for women's empowerment, oversight and accountability, representation and participation, addressing gender-based violence in Africa. By performing these roles, African parliaments can contribute significantly to advancing women's rights and promoting gender equality on the continent. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. May I recognize the Honourable Member next?
Thank you so much, Honourable Chair. I appreciate this meeting and congratulate honourable members, especially Parliament of South Africa, for organizing it, and the leadership of PAP. This is very, very important. Honourable members, for your information, gender equality is possible, and also for the rural women. Before I proceed, there are two things I want to clarify on. the honorable member who said that why do we put quotas for women? Why 30%? Why this percentage? Honorable members, why quotas were put there even in Beijing and many forums is what they are promoted and advocated for was to correct the historical marginalization of women. And for our information, this marginalization was not done by men. It's historical, it's cultural, it is embedded. Both women and men advocated for it. But as time went by, there's understanding that for societies to develop, to continue, women, men, young people should be put at the forefront and participate in national development. Madam Chair, I am an MP from the country of Rwanda, and as Arya said, we have many more women in decision making, and it's not only numbers, but what was possible is that first of all, there's the political will, leadership. They feel a country cannot develop without women being part of the process. So it's not a favor done to women. So then gender responsive legal and institutional framework, access to land, access to resources, access, and then the gender responsive policies and programs, and where we put men engaged. And a former colleague was talking about, an MP was talking about rural women, a program that promotes rural women, and rural women are also involved in grassroots decision making. Because if women are not in decision making, even at the grassroots, who will decide where the water will go? The schools, all things that pertain to the livelihood of women. So without taking much of your time, I will just read one of the quotes of our president, who is a he for she. He said, women and men are equal in terms of ability and dignity, and they should also be equal in terms of opportunities. As a Rwandan and as a global community, we need every member of our society to use his or her talents to the fullest if we are ever to reach our development agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, you may.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, d'avoir donné.
Thank you, Chairperson, for giving me the floor. I would like to emphasize something on educating women and capacity building in favor of women. An educated woman can equally educate her children, so we suggest that we should envisage setting up model laws which compel young girls to reach a certain level of education so that they would be able to ensure the protection of their rights and the rights of their families, to equally master their rights, to equally know how to keep themselves free from risks and danger. We would also wish to say that women need to be respected, and we need to equally be very mindful of the laws that have already been adopted in favor of women. An educated woman with a high intellectual value would be able to be fully empowered, and she therefore becomes a lever for the economy of her country. We women would remain united, assisting one another, because we would be role models for our children and for the youth. When we refer to the young people, we women should always make every effort to ensure that we are role models for the young people. Finally, we need to support one another as women. We need to show ourselves respect of our values, because we do not need to ask men to respect us if we cannot respect ourselves sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. You may take the stand, Madam. Yes.
شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My name is Khadija from Morocco, the Deputy Chair of Gender Committee. I'm very pleased that we are speaking here today about youth and gender as a theme of G20. And I would like to say that even in the countries that are considered as the big countries or advanced countries, women still suffer. It's true that African women, they really have double suffering, and so they are facing lots of challenges. And here I would like to thank my colleagues in the Parliament, because through their interventions, I've noticed that we really have like an agreement on everything related to women, because it's not related to women only, but it's the issue of the whole society in general. The African women, they are facing lots of challenges, women or young women, and they really need corrective action in all fields and to have equal opportunities before equality. Starting by changing mindsets, we know that in our continent we have many cultures, we have many beliefs, and so we have to raise awareness. We have also to have or to develop comprehensive policies that would take into account our own characteristics as African societies, African communities. So it would respect our culture, it would respect our African identity. Those policies, Madam Chair, have to focus on empowerment, has to focus on social empowerment, political empowerment, starting by science, starting by education. We have a saying in Arabic that says, science is light. So if we give this weapon to women, which is education, which is science, definitely they will enlighten our continent. There are some countries in our continent that do have programs, and real programs in this regard. And here I will speak about my own country, Morocco. In Morocco, we encourage a lot those programs. We have several programs that empower girls. One initiative is called Taysir in Arabic, and this initiative, in fact, provides financial support to rural women, rural girls, in order to assist them in their own education expenses. So this is to facilitate education process for girls. Of course, empowerment entails confidence, entails training. And here I will also give you an example from Morocco. We have initiatives, we have a program called Empowerment Tamkeen in Arabic that also supports women in rural areas. This program supports them financially in order to be able to invest in their children, in order to have their own startups. Also, we reform the code of family code, that's to strengthen or to enhance the access to rights. So empowerment of women politically and economically, it's not just a target, but it's a main pillar that will lead our continent towards justice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honourable Member, I think that was the last speaker. Honourable members, I think we must take this opportunity and thank you for quite enriching inputs that were advanced today in this House. Seated here together, gathered here in this fashion, the solution lies with all of us, as activists, as politicians, as well as parliamentarians. And how so? We need to be deliberate in our efforts in making sure that we enact transformative legislative that will sought to transform the livelihood of our women, our youth, and of course with our people with disabilities. It is very crucial. The challenges that we are raising, they cut across our various countries, our various legislatures, as well as PAP. And fortunately, Your Highness President, we do have committees that are responsible for many issues that have been raised here, which will then assist us to champion and advance our African agenda towards a transformative agenda. Now, having said that, it is my firm belief that as African countries, we really need to collaborate to address our continental and global challenges, particularly in areas of sustainable development. As many speakers have alluded to issues of investments, the role that the banks need to play in respective of women empowerment and also in respective of youth empowerment would be very crucial. It is us who must unlock those opportunities through enacting the legislations that will enable our respective countries to afford our young people an opportunity to develop and grow and take a trajectory that will make sure that there is sustainable development. True to the saying that says that our countries are becoming younger day by day, and therefore the question is, what is it that we are doing to prepare for the next generation to come as legislatures? What is it that we really need to do to make sure that we leave a legacy that will be meaningful and very impactful for the fourth or fifth generations to come just after us being, whether went back home or by natural course, we shall have departed with this world. And I'm saying, honorable members, as African countries, we really need to benefit in terms of partnership through this P20 and our various platforms that are presenting itself. One of the honorable members is saying that there cannot be youth without youth speaking for themselves. And they are saying that we do have platforms which were created, Your Highness Chief President, that were created to afford our young people an opportunity to come to the fore and speak about their issues and determine their agenda and advance their agenda. I think it's something that we really need to consider through our youth committee. We create that platform, and accordingly, it goes with women as well, because there are many formations out there, be it the NGOs, the women's sectors, various sectors in which women have coordinated themselves. They can speak for themselves. They can set the agenda and set the tone for us, so that as we go in our respective legislatures and as well as coming here in Parliament, in Pan-African Parliament, we are the voice of reason for those women. I think the message that we have heard today, it was well received, and we are saying that, of course, we really need to have a deliberate approach so that we collaborate in initiatives that can lead to increased investment in infrastructure, in technology, and as well in industries, so that we can boost our economic development across the African country. That is why we are talking about intra-African trade, so that we take advantage of the global issues that is happening, particularly in the USA. That presents, be it as a problem, but it presents an opportunity for us as African countries to come together, sit together, and decide what is it that we need to do so that we develop our own economies, so that no one is left behind. So that says, Honorable President, as this Pan-African Parliament, we've got a huge responsibility to make sure that we unite and we foster unity amongst this country. It also presents an opportunity for us as African countries to address the socio-economic challenges amongst our youth as well as women and people with disabilities. I think we really appreciate the inputs that have been put forward. We are taking them with us so that as we prepare to engage with our counterpart globally, we now have an idea as to what is the attitude of African countries in terms of issues pertaining to youth development, women development, and people with disabilities. Having said that, from my side, as the co-chairperson, we once again want to take this opportunity that has been forwarded to us as South Africa, one of the son of the soil, to come and present to our neighboring sisters countries so that we share your ideas as well. As we go there, we're not going there as South Africans, but we are going there as the voice of Africans. We thank you once again for an opportunity.
Thank you, my co-chair. Right Honorable Refire Tsipane. Congratulations. Congratulations. Félicitations. Shukran that we've held this meeting this afternoon. Congratulations to all those that are here, all those that attended. You know, we are parliamentarians in this room, whether it's PAP, whether at the level of South Africa, you are in parliament at whatever level. One thing is that we have all complained in our lives, and the people have complained in their lives about leaders whom they elect. It's a complaint every day about whether it's councillor, member of parliament, senator, member of council of provinces, or minister. People complain about the absence of the people they elect. And it shows even in this room that if we had a way of telling those who elected you would say, you elected a good person. She or he is serious with the work. This idea of being elected and when you are supposed to attend the parliament or a symposium like this one, you have other priorities, you have already left. Maybe your shop needs to be stocked, so you want to order to go into Johannesburg industrial area and order something for your shop. You are shortchanging your people. You are shortchanging. If you are busy, tell your people to replace you. Yeah. We have people who are elected into parliament or council, whatever, but they do not have time for the position to perform the duties they were elected for. Please don't shortchange people. Please go and tell them that you elected me, but the job you gave me, the job that you gave me, unfortunately, clashes with my other duties, my business responsibilities, my family responsibilities. It's honorable to say that's being honorable. When you don't attend, you are being dishonorable. You are not being honest. So the way to honor, you don't deserve that one. I'm saying I really thank from my heart those that are still seated here up to this moment. You are very honest people. To the people who elected you, you are very honest. It is true, the women, the youth out there, surely they need a better life. They need a better life in many ways, whether it's education, health, roads, transport, food, you name it out there, people need a better life. And you owe it yourselves to those people. So the moment you continue doing what you are doing, some things will change for the better. So I'm just saying, look, it's just thanking you. I thank you. You are really genuine leaders. Please, I just want to remind you that for Pan-African Parliament this afternoon, we have performed one of our great duties as Parliament of the continent, because the statutes establishing PAP, and I want to quote, one of them says, to provide, PAP will provide a common platform for African peoples and their grassroots organizations to be more involved in discussions and decision making on the problems and challenges facing the continent. And this P, parliamentary involvement of youth and women, and of course all the parliamentarians and speakers, through that mechanism will feed into the policies, outcomes of P20. So as PAP, we are performing one of our key functions in terms of the AU protocols. You are aware that if it's not going to change, I don't know, South Africa, these are the ones who are leading us on that one. That on the 29th September, there's going to be a P for the youth. On 30 September, there's going to be P something, women parliamentarians on the 30th, under P20 umbrella. So this will be for women parliamentarians on the 30th, and 29th, the youth. Again, I think it will be Johannesburg or Pretoria or Cape Town, I don't know. But it's coming. It's coming. There is a day for the youth that's coming on the 29th of September, a whole day. There's a day, 29. There's a whole day for women on the 30th. And there's a day for parliaments. Parliaments, whether it be speakers, with the delegations, from 1, 2, 3 October. So we are there. Let us push. Let us attend meetings. May I invite you or remind you again in joint meeting with the Parliament of South Africa, represented here by our MP and friend, Honorable Lefile. So Lefile is on a Monday. All of you, after I've been praised today, don't change on Monday. Because on Monday, 9 to 5, we are in this room. We are in this room, 9 to 5. A big symposium to take this discussion of P20 further to another level on Monday. It's now on Monday. Whole day there will be a symposium on Monday. Special day. As parliaments, which include youth, women, and everybody now, look at all citizens on Monday will be in this room 9 to 5 p.m., 9 a.m., 5 p.m. All day will be here, pushing Africa, pushing for our citizens. After being praised, I expect you on Monday to be here at 9 up to 5. I thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good night. We meet on Monday. Siyabonga. Bongile. Obrigado, muito obrigado. Felicitação. Shukran. Asante sana. Right.
Annonce, s'il vous plaît. La commission genre, les membres de la commission genre.
Members of the Gender Committee, you are kindly requested to go to your respective hotels, and the buses are going to pick you up at about 6:45 p.m. to take you to your venue at Pretoria, where the workshop will take place tomorrow.